He went on a rant about, so this is at least one here. I can at least share this one here. This is one where, so Matt Hansen, he says sickos. So referring to Grums and Elon Musk, he's like, I wanted so badly to make him mad with my game, and I cannot believe it actually happened. What they're talking about is, so just like many modern AAA games, they put the pronouns in it, right? Because they think that that's something that they need to do. Grums came out, obviously. Then Elon Musk is like, having pronouns in a fantasy video game is utterly unacceptable. And it is. That is correct. Because in a fantasy world that's supposedly taking place 100 or so years ago, or several hundred years ago, in a fantasy, why would you put modern day politics from the real world in your game? That sounds stupid. That's absolutely ridiculous. He just went on an absolute tear. And it, like, I sit here and I think about this, and I'm just like, so here's the deal. They could have put all of this stuff in the game, right? The pronouns and whatever. If they would have just said absolutely nothing, you know what would have happened? It would have gone out to a bunch of people who would have played the game, reviewed the game, said absolutely nothing about pronouns, right? Because there are a string of YouTubers out there who they just don't care. They just don't care about any of the culture war stuff at all. To them, it just like, oh, it doesn't matter, right? They could put all of that stuff in there, and gamers, and there are channels out there, they're massive too. They won't say a fucking word about it. And those guys probably would have reviewed the game very well. However, this guy, this Matt Henson guy, in his infinite, and they would have made money off of it too, because these are massive streamers. I'm talking guys like Skill Up and so on, right? There's like Skill Up, Luke Stevens, Legendary Drops. A lot of these guys probably wouldn't have said a fucking word about the pronouns, right? They would have just played the game and said whether or not they had a good time with it or not. They wouldn't have said anything about the culture war BS because they don't care about it, right? Because they don't think that there's any value in it. They think it is just drama farming is what they do. And these are the big streamers. And the reason that they're big is because they've been politically neutral. And if this Matt Henson guy from Obsidian would have just shut up, those streamers would have taken that game and they would have absolutely played it, probably given it good reviews, and they would have made money. Problem is, Matt Henson is a fucking moron who decided he was going to open up his mouth, and instead of just letting the game ride and letting it get a pass by a bunch of big streamers, he decided he was going to go out and own the chuds, which now puts the ball in the air for everybody to serve, right? And when it gets out there, and everybody starts covering it, they're like, man, this dude is having a meltdown. They're like, and a lot of people are like, I'm still gonna check out Avowed. They're like, but this dude's having a meltdown, and it's making us kind of worried about this game because we're starting to think it might be another Dragon Age the Veilguard. Yeah. The one-time silence would have been the best marketing strategy. Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, yeah. I mean, you just shut up. Like I said, there are a lot of people out there who are apolitical, and by apolitical, they don't care about if it's even tangentially rubs up against real world politics. They just avoid it like the plague, right? I had somebody comment to me one time about how they hated Bellular News because they didn't cover the Sweet Baby Inc. thing and this, that, and the other thing, and I'm like, yeah, but Bellular doesn't cover that stuff. He never has. I don't think Bellular has ever covered anything culture war at all. And again, there are channels out there, they will avoid it like the plague. They're not going to touch it. They're going to walk away from it. 99% of the population doesn't care nor acknowledge the politics. I don't think it's 99%, Philip, based off of in its older data, but it was like 70% of the American population is not politically initiated, meaning they don't pay attention to any politics at all. Then you have 30% of people who do pay attention to it, but that's divided in half, right? So you've got the right and the left. But yeah, 70% of the population doesn't care at all in any way. But yeah, good, because all the woke crap needs to stay out of games. It's not going to, though. I mean, it needs to stay. Here's my issue with people who defend a lot of this stuff. If you actually go and you look up the statistics of people who take their own lives, the people who are a part of the they them group, who are a part of that group, right, who are part of the trans community, they tend to self-delete at a much higher rate than anybody else. Like, it's insane. It's like a 50% rate. My issue with the people who want to sit there and espouse that this is a great lifestyle, I absolutely believe that blood is on their hands. If they are going to sit there and they are going to tell people that it is a good idea to give in to somebody's psychosis, to tell them that it's okay for them to believe whatever it is they want to believe about themselves, whether it's true or not, instead of identifying the mental health issue and people off themselves, that's like you telling somebody that heroin's a good thing and they should keep doing it, which puts that person's blood on your hands, right? You can see this. Don't even go into all of the other issues with the problem. Just in that one issue, if you support that community and tell them to keep going for it, you need to change who you are and snip off your parts and get the chemical injections or the hormone injections and all that, knowing that there is a 50% casualty rate from that lifestyle, blood is on your hands. It just is. And you're a disgusting human being for it. Instead of looking at the issue and going, maybe we should figure out what's going on with people and try to guide them away from it and try to help them with their mental health, right? That's just one factor that nobody talks about, right? People are clapping along with the fact that others want to choose a lifestyle that has a 50% mortality rate. I mean, don't get me wrong, life has a 100% mortality rate, but you get what I'm saying. It's absolutely abhorrent that anybody in their right mind would support that. It doesn't make sense to me at all. It's like, dude, I drink a fair amount of beer, and there are people in my life like, hey, dude, you drink a lot of freaking beer. I'm like, yeah, I do. I should probably calm it down. Been calming it down a lot lately. But yeah, it's one of those things that, and nobody wants to talk about that, right? Nobody wants to talk about that on that side, right? It's like, they're trying to go after your kids. It's like, yes, so keep your kids away from a lifestyle that has a 50% mortality rate because people take themselves out. But that's not an option. Some of us would just say you're an adult, do whatever, but that's not an option anymore. I mean, yeah, to a certain extent, I can see that. But the issue is that it's not just you're an adult, do whatever you want. It's they're pushing this on people. They're telling people to become okay with a lifestyle that leads to self-deletion. That's not something that anybody should be okay with. Again, that doesn't even cover any of the other issues with this, right? That does not cover any of the other issues, the societal issues, right? Religious issues, okay? It doesn't touch any of that. It's just one factor, one thing that you can see. It's on paper. The death certificates are there. And it's disgusting that anybody on the left would promote this lifestyle. You know, it's a Band-Aid fix for bigger problems. And like Alice Cooper said, it's unfortunate, a really popular trend. Yeah. And it's nobody talks about it like that, right? I've never heard another streamer talk about why pushing this stuff is bad. There's like, it's bad. I don't like it. Cool. Articulate, please. And a lot of people are just like, well, you know, it's a small portion of the population. True. And it's like 99% of people aren't like that. I'm like, okay, also true. It's like, so why are they pandering to other people? And I'm like, well, okay, that's kind of a weak fucking argument, though. That is kind of a weak argument. It's like, okay, so why don't we actually talk about the real crux of the situation and why it's so damaging to society, right? Why it's so damaging to people. How it destroys people's ability to reproduce. How coming back from it is almost not possible. The lives that it's ruined, right? The studies that are coming out that they don't put out anymore because turns out it's not a good idea.